This is a special announcement. We are heading to RSA conference in San Francisco for our 11th years of coverage, April 28, May 1st.
And as always, we're bringing you keynotes, conversations with organizers, speakers, industry leaders, plus the latest insights from the world of cybersecurity.
And we'll reconnect with old friends, meet new ones, and of course, we want you and your company to join us.
We have a few spots left for full sponsorship and our on-location briefings. You can book yours now at itspmagazine.com/RSAC.
We're going.
And you're coming with us. Marco.
Sean, are you still in Vegas?
I made it back.
Yeah?
Made it back, safe and sound.
There you go.
So safe and sound because I didn't even go.
There you go. That was the joke.
I eliminated the risk completely. I'm just not going.
When you don't go, it's easy. It's easy to get there. It's easy to come back.
That's right.
Although I missed the drive. I gotta say, I missed the drive that we used to do together to go to Vegas. So maybe next time. But we have somebody that actually was there, and there was HIMSS.
There was HIMSS in Las Vegas, and I mean, often you hear, and I think it's true, especially when you talk about Vegas, it's about the journey, not necessarily the destination. But unless you're going to HIMSS to meet the team at HITRUST, including Ryan Patrick. How are you, Ryan?
Living the dream. You know what they say, Sean? They can't stay in Vegas if you don't stay in Vegas. So just keep that in mind.
That's right. Things leak sometimes. But you had a good week there. A lot of conversations, as I know. And I think, obviously, we talked a bit before you went to Vegas about what you were hoping to talk about. Were your expectations met about what people wanted to rap about with respect to HITRUST?
Yeah, I mean, I'll start off with, in the nearly decade of HIMSS attendance that I have had, this was probably the most well-attended show that I've seen in a really, really long time. I mean, the hallways were packed, the exposition floor was packed, the session rooms were packed. It was really energizing to see all the people and, understand that they're all kind of trying to work together to figure out how to solve multiple problems within the U.S. healthcare industry. And like I said, it was really energizing. I was pleasantly surprised to see the amount of people there and the amount of folks that did come to talk to us at our booth. I mean, the conversations really spanned from how do you spell HITRUST, like what do you all do, to how do I get in on this AI stuff because that's where I need to go or that's where my organization is heading in. So, I mean, everything in between. It was a really great show.
Well, I think going to a show with the intention to get answers to what the problem may be, or getting a look into what the main topics and getting prepared, it's something that I think an organization like HITRUST, it should be happy to know. It's not a show about, hey, let's talk about me and what I do as a company, but let's talk about what is the scenario, what is the reality, and what can we do all together, including HITRUST. So is this the kind of conversations that you had?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, if you think about the types of people and the types of organizations that attend shows like HIMSS, it's not a cybersecurity show, right? So it's not all about HITRUST. It's not, organizations trying to figure out what do they need to do from a cybersecurity perspective. There's some that are legitimately trying to improve patient experience, improve patient care, innovating from an interoperability perspective to help, whether it be providers or whomever, just do a better job in the very foundation of what healthcare is doing. So, it's really interesting for me to, have conversation to conversation, walk from booth to booth, and see how HITRUST is an enabler of all of those things. Because if you think about the idea of, what the folks in the TEPCA industry are doing around interoperability and making patient records accessible regardless of where your provider is and versus where you're at physically, none of that happens if security isn't at the foundation, right? The biggest thing from an HIE perspective for interoperability is the availability of data. if these HIEs are not able to actually transmit data, then it defeats the whole purpose of what they're trying to do. And HITRUST, I would argue, is like a key component of that, because we have proven that our assessments and ultimately the certification reduces risk and becomes that force multiplier, so that the really smart people who are trying to solve complex healthcare problems can actually do that without having to, look over their shoulder and worry about whether there's going to be some kind of breach, or is the data not available because we've been ransomware, what have you. So it was just really interesting for me to see how we fit into almost every puzzle that everybody else within healthcare is trying to solve.
And I know I saw one post that kind of leads me to this next question around what is HITRUST. Obviously, the name is known, maybe not the spelling, as you pointed to before we started recording, but certainly HITRUST is known, connected very well into the healthcare ecosystem as a way to manage and mitigate risk and raise the posture of security for organizations. But were there misconceptions still that you hear from folks? You talk about being an enabler, but as soon as for many folks, you bring up the word regulation or industry policies, people's hair just starts to go on fire, right? With, oh my gosh, all this extra stuff I have to do. But I don't know, were there any one of them is cost, maybe, I don't know, any other misconceptions that you heard that surprised you and were maybe happy to have folks understand a little better?
Yeah, unfortunately, none of the misconceptions surprise me at this point. I've probably heard them all. I've been working with HITRUST for over a decade at this point, but I guess what's surprising to me is folks still haven't heard about the full portfolio of assessments, right? Because historically, for the first 15 years or so of HITRUST existence, we had one assessment, which is currently named the R2, which is what I call the significant emotional event that most people equate HITRUST to. It's really robust, it's really rigorous, there's lots of controls, and with a lot of controls, what happens? A lot of time, effort, money have to go into that. And within the last 3 years, we've released two other assessments. Think about them. If the R2 is, the most comprehensive or the high assessment, we have a medium assessment and a low assessment to really meet organizations where they're at in their security journey. So the low is 44 requirements, can be done in a matter of weeks, maybe a few months, depending on the maturity of the organization. And the cost is equatable to the amount of effort and time that goes into that. So there are options really for any organization of any size and any maturity level from a cybersecurity and to a certain extent a privacy perspective, because we've created these additional options that I do find that people are not aware of, which is, I guess, to contradict myself, a little bit surprising at this point, because they're a great tool. And I will tell you that the E1, our low tier assessment, is actually the fastest growing assessment that we have right now. So some people are catching on, but there's probably still a ton of homework and a lot of work we can do to educate folks that these options are available to them.
I know one quickly, Marco, was you mentioned before we were recording as well the third-party risk, which obviously when you talk about interoperability, we're talking about third and nth parties. Quickly, thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at HITRUST, I will tell you that we are a TPRM company. I may not always be agreed with on that, but if you look at what we're doing, we're building trust between organizations. And that's the very nature of what third-party risk management is about, is understanding where this business partner, vendor, supplier, whomever they are to you, where they're at in their security journey. Are they mature enough? If they're not mature enough, what's their plan to become more mature? That's really what HITRUST has been doing for 17 plus years, is demonstrating maturity and establishing trust, or at least establishing visibility And what I did find really satisfying, if you will, is I had more and more folks at HIMSS, whether it be from providers, some payers, and other healthcare adjacent, whether they be health tech firms or other types of firms out there, who are now looking at leveraging HITRUST within their third party risk management programs, right? Because if you think about what's being used historically, there's a lot of variability. And for the most prominent one, the most prominent assessment here in the US, there's a lot of questions about the quality of those assessments. Whereas because HITRUST has centralized all of its quality assurance, we have standardized on our assessment methodology and the assurance program that goes into each and every assessment. Those problems are not uh, apparent for HITRUST, and more organizations are starting to learn that. And if you think about how we have built tools on the back end of getting HITRUST certified to provide the results in an automated fashion. And oh, by the way, you can ingest that into your TPRM module of choice or GRC tool of choice. It makes the actual analysis of that vendor that much more efficient. And if you think about most mid-sized organizations have hundreds, if not thousands, of vendors, it makes managing and assessing the total vendor pool that much easier because you're not having to dig through a 200 to 500 page PDF. You actually you're pulling in structured data, which you can then manipulate based on your risk tolerances, based on what controls you want, what's happening in the industry today. Like it gives you so much more capability. And with the advent of AI, you may be able to layer AI on top of this structured data just to enrich it even more to understand where do you need to pay attention to. And a lot of the conversations that I had at HIMSS were along those lines of how can I use the results of HITRUST in my TPRM program in a more efficient way.
Very good. I'll tell you what, in 1 year, there'll be another one of HIMSS. I'm looking at the date. It's actually literally 1 year, like March 9th to the 12th, 2026, still in Las Vegas. And but people do not need to wait an entire year to meet with you guys because they can do that every day, 365. So what is the call to action? People listening to this conversation, or maybe they've been on HIMSS, maybe they haven't, but they're like, you know what, I want to talk with these guys. I want to talk with the HITRUST. I want to learn how to spell that name, and I want to learn what I can do with that. So what can they do?
Yeah, I mean, obviously go to hightrustalliance.net as a starting point. That's our website. It'll break down, if you're unfamiliar with how the framework works or how our assessments work, it'll talk about the other enablers that we have. Think about shared responsibilities with cloud providers, talk about that results distribution system that I was just referring to. There's a wealth of information on our website, but feel free to reach out to me, reach out to my colleagues at HITRUST, dig in, ask us the tough questions, because you know what? This is not a small undertaking from a change perspective, meaning if you have been focused on SOC 2 or you've been focused on NIST or what have you, this is different. And that's okay. But it's what I find is that most organizations have not educated themselves on exactly what HITRUST is and how it works. And I encourage everybody, like I said, hit the website, email me directly, find me on LinkedIn, follow me on LinkedIn. I'm constantly posting about HITRUST to further educate the market on the things that we're doing, because we're constantly innovating. We're trying to tackle these real problems and kind of look ahead and see where we can start to influence the market to ease their pains in the future, if you will.
Yep. Well, if you're listening and don't know what HITRUST is, go check it out. Look at the services and offerings. If you think you know what it is, have a go at the site and connect with Ryan and the team, because you might learn something that they do continue to innovate, as you put, Ryan, and you might be surprised at what you find they can do for you along your own journey, which is unique to your own organization. So, Ryan, thanks for giving us an update on what you heard from HIMSS, and hope the conversations keep going for you. And everybody listening, watching, hopefully Marco and I get to see you in person at HIMSS next year. We'll make that drive to Vegas.
Please do.
Yes. And in the meantime, stay tuned On Location with Sean and Marco. Much more coming. Do subscribe. Thumbs up.
Okay.
Marco's giving me. I was following your cues there.
I'm
For those
acting it.
watching, I was like,
I'm Italian.
you don't do that. I'm like, what's he doing there?
I'm acting.
So have some fun with us. Have some fun with Ryan, and work toward your HITRUST certification. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Ryan. Always a pleasure.
Thanks, gents.
This is a special announcement. We are heading to RSA Conference in San Francisco for our 11th years of coverage, April 28, May 1st.
And as always, we're bringing you keynotes, conversations with organizers, speakers, industry leaders, plus the latest insights from the world of cybersecurity.
And we'll reconnect with old friends, meet new ones, and of course, we want you and your company to join us.
We have a few spots left for full sponsorship and our on-location briefings. You can book yours now at itspmagazine.com/RSAC.
We're going.
And you're coming with us.